Very good morning to you, everyone. Thank you for staying with us here on Global Television. This is Global Morning, and it's always a delight to welcome you. I'm Uyi Agmofwegwe, and I came with, let's say, is a miracle co-host today because ideally he won't be here, but things ain't the same, as they say. Ramsey, good to see you.
Good to see you. Good morning, Uyi. Good morning, everyone. It's good to be on Global Morning today. Well, so much happening, and of course, I think it's very important that we bring those things, the ones we can, actually talk about it briefly this morning. And with you, I know Global Morning is always loaded, so everyone out there is not expecting anything less.
I've never had any less expectation of you as well, because it has to be a teamwork by all means. I want to say a big thank you once again to all of our viewers and those who have had to follow us across all of our programs. We appreciate you. Well, like Ramsey already mentioned, we'll have quite enough time on our hands to discuss extensively on very burning issues today. Some of them local, others international. Back at home, for example, we're seeing President Tinubu do a bit of reshuffling. Of course, last week it was the IGP who actually took a bow, and today we have a new Inspector General of Police in the saddle. But just yesterday, we're told that Taiwo Oyedele, who before now has been the chairman of the Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee, excuse me, the Presidential Committee, I should say, is now to be Minister of State for Finance. And like a colleague asked yesterday, well, what then happens to the current, incumbent Minister of State for Finance? I said, well, the president says she'll now move to budgets and national planning again as Minister of State. That's our third portfolio since 2023, August 21st, when they were inaugurated alongside the other ministers. But again, that shows that, who knows, the president is now taking a much deeper look into the leadership structure, doing assessment and reassessment. And this cycles back to what he told them more than 2 years ago. That was September of 2023, saying that, look, for whatever is worth, from time to time, we will be doing assessment and reassessment. And for those who we deem not to have been able to pull their weights, who probably do not understand where we're heading with the Renewed Hope agenda, who are not bringing much or bringing nothing to the table, you would have to leave us. But nobody has really left the president now. It's just a matter of moving one person to a different position altogether.
Yeah, I think there are so many twists to this whole thing. Some people might say, all right, maybe she wasn't doing well.
All right. In that capacity.
In that capacity, and she was moved to another different area altogether. And some people will tell you, well, it could be that she's no, she has capacity in different areas. All right. Maybe jack of all trade and master of all, as the case may be. She's good here. All right. There is a lacuna here. Let's move. All right. There is a lacuna here. Let's move. Maybe I don't know, because people might reason it from different angles.
Right.
Some people might say no. Maybe she lack capacity in this area, and there is need for movement to somewhere else where we feel the capacity will fit in more. And some people might reason it from the other side to say, well, it could be that she is so endowed, all right, that she can fit into anywhere there is lacuna. So there are so many twists to it. And some persons will tell you maybe it could be a repositioning for some greater things ahead. Because it all varies. Everybody will look at it from different perspectives and give perceptions to all of these happenings. But on the whole, with every of these things happening, can we now say the economy has moved from where it is to where it is supposed to be? Because that is more paramount, and that's what Nigerians are looking for, looking out for. So whatever happens, no matter the shift, if you told us whoever that does not have capacity, even though you were the one that appointed them, would be shown the way out, but then we're having reshuffling, which nobody is kicking against, but then the impact, right? Nigerians should be able to feel the impact and effect of all of this movement and shifts.
I totally agree, really, because in the end, Nigerians are naturally not as interested in who moves where and why, as they want to experience the dividends of democracy, whether you call it the Renewed Hope agenda or sweeping reforms of the Tinubu-led administration. But again, it's good to know that the president is taking the bull by the horns, and that's what leadership should be about, taking responsibility for the choices and the decisions that you make. So we'll be looking at all of those issues today, and of course we'll look at the politics of today and how that plays into 2027. Ultimately, we'll escalate things a little to look at what's happening not just in Iran, but across the Middle East region, and of course how the world is responding to the strikes that were made on Iran just over this weekend by Israel and US, and then the retaliatory moves that we have seen Iran also make the last few days. Iran is coming off as being tough. Iran is showing to the world that each too can retaliate, can be seen to be weak at this point in time, because the losses recorded by that country can best be described as colossal. And as such, it's only natural that you see this sort of reaction from Iran. But the question is it sustainable? What's the exit strategy? Will this be a win for Iran? Will it be a win for US and Israel on the other hand? Will one country sink the other? Between Iran and Israel, because these are supposed to be neighbors, at least within the same region, and things like that. Those are part of our conversations for you today. Let's take a break now. The rest of the program will continue. Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
for the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m., Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
For people who think this is just a crisis of or for Iran or a crisis for the Middle East, we are obviously mistaken, because it has not become a crisis for the world by way of the implications, or if you like, ramifications, given what we now know today. Flights have been cancelled, in some cases halted at least. A lot of countries have had to rethink very critical decisions they had before now made, including within the world of soccer, football in particular. Just yesterday, news filtered in that Ronaldo had to move from Saudi Arabia to Spain for obvious reasons. So you have no idea how many more presidents would have moved or would move on account of all of this. And you see how it has rubbed off one way or another, directly or indirectly, on countries within the Middle East. And you look at that and you're asking yourself, given what we now know today, what we're saying, what countries are saying, how they are responding, including a country like Britain, for example, saying that they are going to allow the US access to some of their critical infrastructure for what they call specific and limited purposes. What that means is yet to be seen, because not much of context has been created by Prime Minister Keir Starmer. But it's to say that this doesn't look like it's going to end by breakfast time tomorrow. So is the world bracing for these? Like I asked a while ago, is there an exit strategy for Iran, even though we see consistent series of, if you like, retaliatory action on its part right now? I mean, my colleague and I spoke with one of Nigeria's very respected professors of international relations and diplomacy, Mukhtar Imam, and he did say that when it comes to sophistry, all right, in Arsenal, Iran doesn't come close to Israel or the US. So if we go that route, it's going to be a total annihilation. And that means a lot of catastrophe for the Middle East. So what efforts in that regard are being made to ensure that this is curbed, that this is tamed, and this is curtailed as quickly as possible? I mean, you host Diplomatic Perspective.
Yes.
If there's going to be anybody who is more interested in this, it should be you. But the real question now is, does Iran really have a strategy, or is Iran just being impulsive and reactionary?
A part of the things we should also be looking at is how united is Iran as far as this strike is concerned.
Even within its own fold.
Within its own fold. Is it that some people are for and others are against?
Right.
Looking at the leaders that were taken out, all right, and the antecedents in Iran. But notwithstanding, there are approaches to issues, all right? Sometimes it's not all the time. All the times we will need to flex muscles.
Right.
But then there are some things that necessitate certain actions. So these are some of the ingredients, some of the things we should be looking at. But one thing is certain. If any country, if 2-3 countries of the world are having crisis, definitely it's going to rub on other countries of the world.
Right.
And this is the reason a lot of people, if you want to talk about crisis, want to talk about war, nobody's in support of it. A lot of people have predicted so many things as far as this Iran-Israel war fight per se is concerned. It's been a long-standing situation. You know, now, okay, look at what is coming from Britain now.
Right.
We don't know who is going to raise her head later to say, all right, Iran, if you want to use our facilities or whatever, if you need help, if you need support, let us know. And you know what that means if there is an escalation of such actions. So as it is right now, people have not completely recovered from the losses. What happened when Russia and Ukraine had that war, which is still not completely, you know, as the case may be.
Right.
You can't say whether the war is completely over or not, whether, you know, as just, you know, technically. But with what is happening right now, you just talked about Ronaldo moving. Do you know what that means?
Right.
Moving out of Saudi Arabia. You know what will happen to the Saudi League. You know the pedigree of Ronaldo.
Right.
This is just one out of so many. We are picking that of Ronaldo because of his fame, because of the kind of person he is and who he is. When you talk about the Rand leader game, that's the reason you can see that his movement is all over in the papers. A lot of Nigerian footballers are also being affected by this. Leagues are being suspended. And you know what that means. This is in a way affecting the economy of these countries.
Right.
People that have left, you don't know how many is going to return. Because you can't even predict what is going to happen next.
Right. Uncertainty.
Uncertainty everywhere. Because you don't know what is happening next. There is this I no go gree everywhere. You can see, you can picture that from the retaliation of Iran.
Right.
That means, oh, you think we are boys? All right, we can't keep quiet over this. Let's show, yes, you know, let's make a move. You understand? So there are a lot of uncertainties.
And it's very concerning.
It's concerning, not just to Iran, Israel, and US, Britain, but every other countries of the world.
Right.
Because we don't know. People are predicting so many things that I wouldn't want to say on live television as it is right now, because we don't wish for that.
Right.
And like I said, whatever happens to any country of the world, it is, okay, I don't know if you know what is happening to oil as we speak.
Right. Oil price is skyrocketing in international.
Even in Abuja here.
Yeah. Meanwhile, stocks are tumbling in Asia.
So these are some of the implications of these things. And that's the reason I said nobody, whether you are Iran, whether you are of any religion, any tribe, should support war, should support strife.
If anything, the efforts should be towards de-escalating.
De-escalating. Peace.
Right.
You know, so that's what, personally, that's what I'm looking forward to from the world powers, the leaders. It doesn't matter who is involved. whether you feel you have all the wherewithal or whatever. There are countries, there are leaders that can come together and say this can be done this way, this can be done that way, and peace will have to return. So every effort should be on how to de-escalate the whole incident right now as it is, because it is going to have a global impact if not curtailed.
Of course, that's much, well, it's what we're seeing already right now, and we'll only hope that it doesn't get any worse as it stands, because it's an if you like, it's an ongoing story. We'll call it a developing story in our space. But we do hope for peace. Melania Trump, the First Lady of the United States, was the UN headquarters just this week on Monday, and she did talk about peace in the Middle East as well, while also saying that peace is not fragile, peace has to be firm. And then she sent her heartfelt condolences to those who have lost loved ones. But the sad thing really is that people continue to die, whether I would like it or not. That's the reality as it stands right now. And we do hope world leaders will intervene on the side of justice, on the side of fairness, on the side of equity, so they'll continue to have these alignments and realignments that ultimately won't help the world. All right, so let's lift your spirits a little now for a second. Ramsey Enoch Agbo has inspirational for us.
Hello and welcome to another moment of heart-to-heart inspirational. Let's talk heart-to-heart a little bit, because a lot of people have not been able to bounce back after the last time they failed. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Welcome to Heart-to-Heart Inspirationals. Failure is a feedback and not a funeral. I want to say that again, because of people who failed. Some people fell and they remain on the ground. They never got up again because of what they feel people around them are going to say. But then failure is a feedback. And that's why some people tell you all the time that whatever happens, all right, there is a lecture from every lesson. You know, whatever happens to you in life, there is something that you are meant to learn from it, either positively or negative thing that you need to take cognizance of and be watchful as you move on the journey of life. So I just want to tell you today that failure is a feedback and not a funeral. What kind of feedback did you get from that last failure? Have you even tried anything at all? Have you experienced failure before? If you've not experienced failure before, it means you need to try harder, because on this journey of destiny, people who are successful today are people who have failed a number of times and they got up on their feet, learned from their mistake, and their mistake became a stepping stone for them, and of course they are where they are today. Why? Because they never allow that failure to become a funeral to their dream. What am I emphasizing? As a matter of fact, let's normalize something today, all right? Let's normalize something today. A failure, you've heard about it all the time. Okay, this person is a failure, that person is a failure. You know, people assess their counterparts, their neighbors, their brothers, their colleagues differently with different perspectives. Some persons already have been tagged as failure, and that has been affecting a lot of people. But then, have you accepted that you are a failure? That somebody told you you are a failure does not make you a failure until you accept that you are a failure. All right, not because it feels good, yeah, but because it is necessary. Sometimes, you know, it's risk. It's risk. If you have taken a risk before, and of course, it didn't go well the way you think it was going to go, and you failed, it doesn't mean that is a funeral. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try it again. I was speaking with someone a few days ago, yeah, and we're talking about a particular business, and the young man told me, now I am successful, but then during my wilderness experience, when I was in the workshop, nobody knew knew anything about me, when I was failing over and over and over again, I lost money several times. I had to stay indoors and think of the next thing to do. He failed severally until he said, no, I am not going to allow this failure become a funeral. My dream is not going to be cut short by this failure. And he stood on his ground. Consistency. I must always emphasize consistency anytime I come up to speak to anyone on heart to heart, because it is very important. If you want to succeed in life, then consistency and discipline is very important. But the bottom line is this: nobody ever succeeds without first stumbling. Yes. You stumble, then you stand again. Even every little child, before a child starts walking, you stand them up, you see them, they walk a little bit, they fall. They walk a little bit, they fall until their leg gets stable on the ground. All right? And you see them walking firmly. Then before you know it, they start running. The same thing is applicable to life. So failure, as a matter of fact, is not proof that you can't. All right, it's not a proof that you can't do it. It's proof that you tried. It's a proof that you tried. When you fail, it means you tried and you failed. It doesn't mean that's the end. It reveals what doesn't work and refine what eventually would work later. That's what failure does. Anytime you fail, you know that, yes, this one does not work. Let me try the other one. It gives you a focus. It makes you know that, yes, if I go this way, I'm going to fail again. So I need to do something else. It's only a fool that do the same thing the same way and expect a different result. If you are doing one thing the same way all the time, you get the same result. You need to apply technicality, strategy, discipline, excellence every time. Whatever you do, let that touch of excellence be in your head, all right? So that when you fail in one thing, you try doing it the other way. But then don't allow that first, second, third, fourth failure be your funeral. Let your dream and your vision and your talent not be buried because you failed. Because that failure is trying to refine you. It's trying to build something in you. What do you have to do? I want you to know that failure, what it does is that it reveals what doesn't work and refines what eventually will work. But you need to have this mentality. Every setback is information. If you are willing to learn, yes, that's what it means. Every setback that you've had in the past is an information. Because there is something you need to learn from every setback, from every failure. Everyone throwing stones at you right now is because they know you are going somewhere. Let me tell you the truth. We have a lot of friendly enemies these days. Some people are smiling with you, but then they are not interested in your success. What they say behind you, if you hear it, hey, but then that shouldn't deter you. That shouldn't deter you because you have a destination. So every setback is information if you are willing to learn, because most people don't fail because they are incapable. That you failed, it's not because you are incapable, but because you are going somewhere, because you are dogged, because you are rugged, because you are determined, because you are focused, because you have a dream, you have a vision, something you are pursuing and something you want to get. You have a target. So when people like that fail, they fail because they don't stop. But if you stop anytime soon, it means that failure has gotten to you. Let me give you an illustration. For instance, a GPS recalculates when you miss a turn. It doesn't shut down, all right? Failure, in other words, simply means it's time to adjust. Anytime you fail, the message is, no, I need to adjust. This principle, this procedure, this formula is not working. I need to adjust. There is something I need to do so that I don't fail again. That's what it means. Anytime you fail, there is a message. It is telling you it's time to adjust the procedure. It is time to re-strategize. That's what it means. All right, so you don't need to abandon your journey because you failed. There is a practical mindset shift that you need to have, and this is it. Number one, stop attaching shame to failure. Yes, stop attaching shame to failure. Some people, when they feel shy. Oh no, I'm not going to get on that stage again. They will laugh at me. No, I'm not going to do that business again. People will laugh at me. People will mock me. The same people will celebrate and want to identify with you if you are a success. So there should be a mindset and a mind shift for you. Extra lessons instead of self-criticism. Stop criticizing yourself because you failed. Stop criticizing yourself. Stop comparing yourself to other people with other people because you failed. That you failed. Failure is not a funeral. Stop burying yourself in shame and criticism. Try again. Make it better. Make it wiser. Make it stronger. That's what it means. All right. Failure is tuition paid for future success. That is a quote that I'm bringing to you now. Failure, I said, is what? Is tuition paid for future success. But if you don't pay, if you go to school now, all right, 100 level, you need to pay a tuition in 100 level. You get to 200, you pay another tuition before you can get to 300 level. In every of this level, there are tuitions to pay. If you want to change levels in life, don't be scared of failure. If you are scared of failure, you will never try anything good. So what do you have to do? Keep pushing. Don't bury your dream because of one mistake that you made. I'll keep saying this. Learn, rise, and move forward. Don't worry about what people are saying. Don't worry about the situation around you. Don't think, oh, I have failed. I don't need to try it again. Keep trying. Change the strategy. Become wiser. Failure make you wiser. Because you walk through this way and you fail, you apply this strategy, this technique, this principle, this formula, and you failed. You will now need to re-strategize. Use another formula. All right? Until you get to your success. Until you get to what you want to achieve in life. All right? So you need to know that anytime you fail, it's a signal that you need to turn. You need to do something again. You need to re-strategize. You need to improvise. Come up with something new. As a matter of fact, failure is not the best option for you. So what do you have to do? Try as much as possible. Right, to be sincere in everything that you do. Because if you want to please people, it will be disastrous. You don't need to please anyone, all right? You don't need to please anyone. It is when you're thinking about pleasing people that when you stumble, you say, oh, I've disappointed this person. I've disappointed even people who really love you, who want you to be successful. By the time you fail, instead of them condemning you, they will come and encourage you to do better. And that's the reason you need mentors. That's the reason you need people to talk to per time. All right? You need to talk to people. See, if you are embarking on a project, I emphasize mentorship all the time. I was speaking with a friend a few days ago and I told the person, if I want to do this thing you're doing now, it is going to be express for me. It's going to be easier. I may have hitches. There might be some times where you have losses or maybe failure at some point, but then you have people to ask questions. I have someone to ask questions. Hey, I got hooked here. What do I do? Even the disaster is not going to be as disastrous as it would have been if you never have anyone to guide you on this journey of destiny. You really need people, okay? Because as your association determine your acceleration in life, okay? And your friends, you need to be careful with the kind of friends you have. If you have a bad friend, it is disaster. If you have a good friend, it means you have a shoulder to lean on, a shoulder to stand on and be tall so that you can get to that success that you are running after, that you are pursuing. Yes, congratulations, everyone. You are a success going somewhere to happen. Don't allow anything stop you on the way. Not failure, not criticism. Don't bury yourself because you failed. Failure is not funeral. Bye-bye for now and have a beautiful day.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning.
For the latest issues.
Always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
It's now time for us to bring you the national dailies and what the headlines are today. I will begin from the Punch newspaper, where we have a couple of headlines. And the first one here says Tinubu nominates Oyedele as minister. That's the first headline that we have above the nameplate this morning to the left-hand side. And we also have this one which says customers to get 20 billion naira meter refunds from Discourse. That sounds like a good news, and it's coming from NEC. We also have this one which says El-Rufai, DSS detains 5 over airport incident, 1 billion naira suit hangs. All right, details of that you can get on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. And of course, we also have this one just beside the nameplate, which says Israel-Iran tension. Thus, the kicker, airline lose over 7.5 billion naira amid grounded flights. We'll talk briefly about that while we're bringing you the introduction. We actually talked about that, and that's a huge loss, as a matter of fact. Now, the star story. Tax law, that's the kicker. Then the story says VAT hits record of 1 trillion naira as new sharing era begins. Then to that story, there are some riders, and the first rider says states, local governments pocket 90.3 billion naira under revised revenue sharing formula. Federal government shares drop to 10% as subnationals gain larger slice. This one says Lagos leads with 111 billion naira VAT allocation in January. Those are the riders to that star story. Then this one says APC inaugurates state local government ESCOs after consensus polls. Rivers Assembly begins screening of 9 Fubara commissioner nominees. A baby factory Ondo couple jailed 14 years. Ondo couples, 14 years, they will be in jail. Then finally, from the Punch newspaper this morning, we have this headline which says, Federal government bans cash tax collections, revenue roadblocks. Revenue roadblocks. Well, you can use your tongue to count your teeth, as a matter of fact. All right, those are the headlines from the Punch newspaper this morning. Just go pick a copy of the Punch and go through the headlines for better understanding.
All right, so The Nation newspaper is an export of coal. Above the nameplate, top left corner, The Nation newspaper. Senate gets Oyedele's nomination as minister. All right, on The Nation newspaper this morning. Fin 3, I have parted ways with Atiku. We let his son go. Well, it's interesting. One time for our son politically, but now for the purpose of this conversation, the son says we have parted ways. Bodija explosion victims lament continuous neglect. Lagos Airport's toll gates automation gridlock persists. You can find those pages 27 as well as 7. All right. Federal government bans collection of taxes, levies on highways. It was becoming embarrassing, quite frankly. El-Rufai's arrival, a security breach, 5 for prosecution, cutting across a handful of security agencies, including the DSS. APC elects chairman to run party in states, parallel congresses in Benue. I think some person saw this coming, really, given the rift between the leaders of the party, in this case, precisely the governor of the state and the secretary to the government of the federation. Nigerians in Middle East send distress calls as government halts pilgrimage. Pilgrims stuck in Lagos. That's going to be a story for another day, really. All right. Lastly, on the foot of the front page, medical council suspends 3 doctors over death of Chimamanda's infant son. You can find details on page 6. It appears a case of negligence has been established here. All right. Those are your headlines, essentially from The Nation newspaper this morning. Time to move things up to the Nigerian Tribune.
All right, let's quickly look at the Nigerian Tribune altogether. Beginning from the star story on the Nigerian Tribune this morning, which says APC consolidate as party pick state ESCOs. A few headlines. All right, a few riders to that story. Actually, Ayedatiwa, loyalists hail exercise. Ex-deputy governor, beg your pardon, emerges Oyo chairman. Akume earlier produced parallel ESCOs in Benue. Enugu Delta governors pick former PDP chairman to lead APC. All right. Edo grants Oshomole automatic ticket to Senate. Well, I don't want to ask we, but that decision, something must inform that decision as a matter of fact, because I know that it did not happen in isolation.
Right.
All right, more headlines for you from the Nigerian Tribune this morning. This one says that Tinubu nominates Oyedele as Minister of State for Finance. One writer to that story moves Uzoka Anyete to Ministry of Budget and National Planning. Lassa fever hits 18 states, 28 health workers infected. That's on a sad note anyway. Then we'll move to other headlines for you here. Middle East crisis. NCPC puts a pilgrimage to Jerusalem on hold. And this one says alcohol responsible for banditry, kidnapping. NAFDAC defends such a ban. That alcohol is responsible for banditry and kidnapping. So such a Can those guys afford the big bottles if they are really the reason? Anyway, that's a discussion for another day. A conservative Anglican bloc to elect rival leaders in Abuja. DSS arrests 5 security operatives over El Rufai's failed arrest at Abuja Airport. That's serious. We have a rider to that story, and of course, the rider says, this is the rider to that story, and the rider says, ex-Kaduna governors 1 billion naira rights suit against ICPC, others suffer setback. ADC demands end to selective justice, calls for transparency in El Rufai and Malami probes. Details you can find on page 3 and 4 on the Nigerian Tribune. That's the size of the headlines from the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
All right. Next is the Guardian newspaper. We'll start with the headline, top right, with a picture of Minister of Finance, who doubles as the coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun. Federal government rules out 1% presumptive tax on informal sector, bans roadblocks. Presumptive tax. I think the calculation is a bit difficult, so you have to presume the tax margin. ADC warns federal government against selective justice, backs El Rufai, Malami. Court adjourns El Rufai's 1 billion naira rights suit against ICPC. Next here it says faulty design, vandalism, neglects, endanger $3.4 billion rail overhaul. Then, as is always the case, the Guardian has done a beautiful work here, looking at the infographics on the front page of it, just to help tell the story of these alleged abandoned overhaul projects of over $3 billion. Right. Then, of course, on the right end of the front page of the Guardian, farmer herder clashes claimed 3,000 lives, displaced 300,000 in 5 years. What a timeline. Federal government approves AI, robotics, coding, cybersecurity centers in 6 varsities, and we understand that initiative is being midwifed by the Tertiary Education Trust Fund. MDCN confirms negligence in death of Chimamanda Adichie's son. You know, this was what we alluded to a while ago, and this is the Medical and Dental Council here confirming negligence in this instant case. Quite a sad story. A Middle East war leaves crude precious petrol near 1,000 naira as Nigeria counts gains risks. So it's a bittersweet experience for the world now, including Nigeria. Tinubu reshuffles Finance Ministry, nominates Oyedele as Minister of State. Umahi Ohiri Bikarova allegation as Uriwa demands probe. Okay. Well, those are all the headlines we have for you from the Guardian newspaper this morning. Please do well to read up details for yourself as you make progress into your day. We now turn to the New Telegraph newspaper.
All right, let's quickly look at the New Telegraph newspaper this morning, beginning from the story at the top. This one says interest rate cut. Oil shock threatened to disrupt easing cycle in Nigeria. Federal government earned 2.28 trillion naira from Q3 2025 VAT proceeds. And from there, we'll quickly move to the next story right here. And the next story says, Tinubu nominates Oyedele as Minister of Finance. All right. Then this one says, Rivers Assembly invites Fubara's commissioner nominees for screening. This one says 5 officers arrested over El Rufai's airport bridge. All right. Why was he not arrested? Well, that's a story you can actually go through for yourself. We also have this one, which says cashless policy. A fund launches 4 quick payment options at airport. We are still trying to go cashless. Delta APC elects Are Yelka as chairman. Obovary charges new ESCO on 2027 victory. That's the delivery mandate right there. And of course, finally from here, Lassa fever. Nigeria records 82 cases, 20 deaths in 1 week. That's serious. And those are the headlines for you on the Nigerian Telegraph this morning.
All right, as we move away from the the New Telegraph this morning, the next port of call is the Daily Sun. Adjacent to the name mast, the headline reads, Federal government halts Israel pilgrimage, cautions Nigerians on demonstrations. I think that cautioning is very timely. Passengers, motorists groan as Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria's cashless policy causes traffic gridlock. What more do we have? Says, we'll ensure enforcement of new policy, Airport Authority. The Star headline tells us, fuel price rises. The writer says, now 937 naira per litre in Lagos, 975 naira in Abuja. Four more headlines to go. One here says, more cash in economy pushes banks' borrowing costs down after CBN rate cut. A female tenant abducts 3 siblings in Ebonyi 24 hours after parking in. Was that not too early? Epidemiological week 8, Lassa fever kills 3. The writer says NCDC confirms 28 infections. Disease ravages 18 states, 67 local government areas. Power crisis. Okpebholo meets stakeholders, advocates broader engagement. Not so much on the front page of the Daily Sun this morning, but that shouldn't be a reason you're not going to look up details for yourself as we move to the Blueprint newspaper.
All right, let's quickly flip through the Blueprint newspaper this morning, where we have this story at the topmost part above the nameplate, which says Iran, 59% Americans disapprove, think long-term conflicts likely. That's coming from a poll. Tinubu appoints Oyedele Minister of State for Finance. NAFDAC, NOA begin nationwide crackdown on sachet alcohol. Then from the world of sport, pre-WAFCON, a sweet revenge as South Super Falcons wallow Cameroon in Yaoundé. And the big story says Middle East war, Nigerians in distress seeking update on evacuation plan. This is coming from NITCOM. And one writer to that story, which says a federal government halts Christian pilgrimage. Last batch of pilgrim arrives. Nigeria's VAT revenue rises to 2.28 trillion naira in Q3 2025. And we also have this one which says 5 security agents detained for bribery in El Rufai Airport Bridge. One writer to that story, hand over to ICPC for prosecution. Well, the story is it's making round everywhere on almost all the papers. This one says a rescued kidnapped victim gives birth to twin girls at Kogi IDP camp. UI withdraws 226 students over poor performance. That's UI, University of Ibadan. Afubara transmits list of commissioner nominee to Rivers Assembly. Anglican division deepen as rebel clerics pick rival to first female leader. And those are the headlines for you on the Blueprint newspaper this morning.
Let's go take a look at our last paper now quickly. That happens to be a Daily Trust newspaper. On the Daily Trust newspaper, Gombe APC adopts President Tinubu as sole presidential candidate in 2027. APC Congresses line up behind Tinubu. We understand the biggest of them was in Kano, right? Businesses bleed as blackouts persist on page 12. Federal government suspends Christian pilgrimage over Middle East crisis. Tinubu nominates Oyedele as Minister of State for Finance. El Rufai, DSS detains security agents over alleged bribery. quite a handful of headlines from Daily Trust today. Please do well to read details across all of these headlines and newspapers. And to remind you that Global Television and the team on Global Morning do not have any contribution made to these headlines or their details. All we do is bring you the headlines just as published by their respective publishers. We're taking a break now. Coming shortly is Social Bars with Ogochukwu Mobulo.
At Witchtech Cables, we don't just make cables, we deliver excellence. Our products are built with advanced technology, trusted for their unmatched quality and durability. With a wide range of cables, swift delivery, and continuous innovation, we stay ahead of the market demand. We are proudly Nigerian, fully indigenous, yet world-class. Backed by a professional team, strong technical support, and a deep commitment to customer satisfaction, Witchtech Cables is more than a brand, it's a promise. Witchtech Cables, quality cables better than the best.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
for the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m., Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
Good morning, Nigerians, and good morning, viewers around the world. It's time to look at buzzing issues making rounds on social media. And today we're going to talk briefly about the Middle East crisis and, of course, NIDCOM's, what they say about the crisis. So this one is the Middle East war, no distress call yet from Nigerians in Iran. And in Iran, says the federal government. The Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, says it's yet to receive any distress call from Nigerians residing in Iran, following ongoing hostilities between Iran and the United States and its ally Israel. In a chat with the Director of Media and Public Relations of NIDCOM, Abdulrahman Balogun, said, although there might be Nigerians in Iran, none had officially reached out to the Commission for assistance. And he went ahead to say, I'm not saying they are only saying nobody has sent any distress call, he clarified. When asked to provide an estimate of Nigerians currently affected, Balogun said NIDCOM doesn't have such data and advised that inquiries be directed to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He said, we don't have embassies there. The only person controlling embassies is the Minister of Foreign Affairs. They will be able to tell you. That's how he concluded. He also said questions were asked on whether NIDCOM is collaborating with airlines or foreign authorities to ensure Nigerians are not left stranded. The spokesperson maintained that such collaboration is not feasible under the current circumstances. He also said that there is suspension of flights by all airlines. He said we cannot collaborate with anybody, noting that Nigerians currently has no national carrier operating international routes, which Nigerian airlines, we don't have one now. Balogun explained that Nigerians traveling to Iran typically do so as private individuals, often connecting through countries such as United Arab Emirates or Greece. Speaking on the possibility of activating a full evacuation plan for Nigerians stranded in the Middle East, Balogun said said certain conditions must be met before the federal government could intervene. Balogun also went ahead to say he stressed that affected Nigerians must formally request assistance and be willing to return home. You cannot force them. People went there voluntarily. In Sudan and in Ukraine, some initially said they were not leaving. So people must seek for help and say, our lives are in danger. Can you please evacuate us? All right. He also went ahead to explain that once such a request was made and conditions permit, the federal government could arrange emergency measures, including chartering aircraft and setting up a rescue committee. He said there must be Nigerians and be ready to come back home. He said that the protection of Nigerians abroad remains a core responsibility of the federal government in line with its citizens' diplomacy policy. If the life of any Nigerian is in danger and it reaches out to us, the federal government will look for a way out. Even if we don't have an aircraft, we can lease or hire for that operation. As far as I know, I'm not aware that anybody has sent a distress call, he said. Well, that is from NIDCOM, the director of NIDCOM, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission. And, you know, I've been asking myself questions, do people there really need to, you know, ask for help at this time? Is there any provision, you know, that is supposed to be there, like for the citizens, Nigerians in Iran at this time, in this kind of, you know, crisis moment? But it's sad to note that we don't even have an embassy there. According to the director, he said, you know what, if you are asking me about anything concerning embassy, please push your answer or direct your questions to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. All right, let's take some comments from social media as regards this topic, and let's see what people think about it on social media. All right, the first comment we have here is Fikuna Demi. And Fikuna Demi says, the conflict is still mostly missiles exchange and targeted strikes, not a full ground war or widespread chaos that traps civilians. NIDCOM is being realistic. Without formal request or clear life-threatening dangers, they cannot justify spending huge sums to charter flights for people who travel there privately and may still feel safe. The absence of a Nigerian embassy or national carrier complicates things further, leaving evacuation dependent on volunteers reaching out and regional airspace opening up. For now, the government is currently waiting for concrete signals instead of preemptively acting. It avoids wasting resources and respects individuals' choice until real peril emerges. All right, thank you so much, Fikuna Demi, for your contribution. The next comment is coming from Ada Odemigwu, and Adam says, what about people in Bauchi, Kwara, Kogi, many states in Nigeria that have been invaded by daredevil bandits? Go and rescue them first. Madam Charity begins at home. The last but not the least comment from this particular topic is coming from That Momo 5. And That Momo 5 said, should there be one before you provide avenue for those who want to leave? All right. Thank you, everyone who dropped their comments concerning this topic, and of course, so many other comments, concerning this particular issue of concern, because it is an issue of concern right now. And also, if you have any other comment, any other thing to say, please make sure that you're using the right handles, which is there on our screen, social media, of course, on YouTube, Global TV NG, and drop your thoughts. I'm not alone today in the studio. I have with me Uyi Agbomofwegwe. Good morning, Uyi.
Very good morning to you, Ogochukwu. It's always a delight to be here.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so we cannot discuss or say everything we want to say here on social boards without, talking about the Middle East. I've tried to avoid this topic since Monday, but I really cannot do.
You're trapped in the middle.
I'm trapped in the middle. That's how it is. So I really need to talk about it. And with this statement from NIDCOM, I'm not so comfortable. So I said I'm definitely going to, talk about it. How come we do not have an embassy? And okay, we don't have an embassy. How come we don't have anything put in place? And why am I hearing that there have to be somebody to reach out? Like someone needs to say, please save us before we can save them. These are citizens. So please explain, because I don't know if I have a child inside a house that is burning. I cannot wait. I won't wait for the child to start crying or tell me, mommy, please help me. I'll definitely look for a way to help that child. So please, can you help us, like enlighten us a bit about this particular issue?
All right, let's begin with the very basics. I don't have information as to the reason Nigeria either does not have an embassy in Tehran at all, or maybe shut down an existing embassy. Okay. I don't have those details. And under these circumstances, the Nigerian authorities have not provided information in that regard either. However, I understand that the Iranian government has an embassy here. In fact, they have an active, so to say, ambassador here in Nigeria who has even written an op-ed, more like an opinion in the dailies about these strikes on this country, right? So I wouldn't know how they have an up-and-running embassy in our country we do not have over there. Maybe it has to do with diplomatic relations or something. I don't know. But let's get right to business, which has to do with the response from the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, led by no other than Abike Dabiri-Rewa. We've seen that commission come under fire many times under similar circumstances, whether it was xenophobia in South Africa or it was some sort of conflict somewhere in Europe or Far East Asia. We have seen that. But let's talk about this instant one, which has to do with Iran and other countries within the Middle East region. The fact of the matter is, for all these issues, there are laid down procedures, right? Okay. You have what you call the rules of engagement. For example, we understand that Iran, apparently in a bid to retaliate, to, if you like, hit back at US and Israel, is now targeting the interests, the facilities of these countries, especially the US, within the region. However, some of those strikes have missed targets. Some of them have hit civilian areas, we understand. So there have been collateral damages of some kind, one way or another, across these different countries, even though experts in international relations now say that these countries within the region have shown maturity by not retaliating against Iran, at least not yet. The question is, how many Nigerians do we have in these countries? I'm not so sure we have that data handy. And then you are asking, have we done an assessment? I mean, the Nigerian government, maybe NIDCOM, maybe the Foreign Affairs Ministry. Have we done an assessment of the damage in these countries and how this damage may impact our people on the ground, whether they are students, whether they are expatriates? I mean, Nigerians who are there, legally or otherwise, I mean, how does it affect them? Whose remit is it to do that? Within whose mandate is it to do that, right? And then I will also put out a statement to say, look, if you are a Nigerian and you are resident at this moment in XYZ countries, would you send an email? Would you send this to so-and-so short code or something? Would you go to so-and-so embassy if it's close to you? I mean, provide them options as to what they can do at this point in time. I mean, we're here under our very nose. We're seeing different countries put out advisories telling their citizens across the country to say, look, If you're in so-and-so place, do this, do this, do this.
Yes, like an SOS call or something.
We have seen even American Embassy, we've seen the British High Commission in Nigeria do that again and again. They say, look, don't go to so-and-so states at so-and-so time. If you go to a so-and-so place, you've got to be sure you put these and these measures in place and things like that. So at this point in time, beyond rhetorics, beyond statements being put out by the spokesperson of NITCOM or the Foreign Affairs Ministry, we must see real work being done. Sometimes these ministries and agencies behave like they don't have a handle on their mandates, or they are just too mentally lazy to put in the work. It's the reason people pay taxes, and it's the reason you were appointed to do the job. There are other people who could have done the job, and if you're overwhelmed, you step aside. But you see, we must not mislead the public. We must understand that people are wiser than we assume they are, and Nigerians, no less, are doing very amazingly on that front. So, long and short of the story is, people may not have come out to say my life is in imminent danger, but please provide them advisory as to what they can do under this circumstance. Now, there are people who are not necessarily in danger, but they are trapped in what can they do at this point in time. There are those who want to come back home from Bahrain, from places like Lebanon, for example. They are trapped in Beirut, the capital of that country. So what are they supposed to be doing now? Who is providing them that vital, critical advice at this point in time?
Instead of assuming that they might be fine, because he just said that. What if there are some person who don't want to live there?
How do we know? How did we come to the conclusion that they don't want to live? Is it because they have a piece of burger in their left hand and a soda in their right hand? It's beyond that. We're talking about existential threats to the lives of real people. So the Nigerian government, through its ministries and agencies that are relevant in this case, must rise to the occasion.
Thank you so much. I thought I was the only one who had this, opinion. It was so much in my head that when I read about this yesterday, I told myself, you know what, we need to talk about it this morning. Thank you once again, Uyi, for your contribution to today's topic concerning, the Middle East and also NITCOM. All right, this is where we close the curtains for Social Buzz here on Global Morning, and of course, I'll be leaving you in the hands of Uyi and Ramsey as they usher us into the discussion section of Global Morning. So stay with us. I am Ogot Kumobno. Good morning, Nigeria. And good morning, the rest of the world. Bye for now.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
for the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
All right, everyone. Thank you so very much, Ogochukwu Mobono, for bringing us up to speed regarding this diaspora issue, which I would like to also talk with Ramsey about for a second. You know, Ramsey, when you see catastrophe of these magnitude happen, like we've seen in Iraq, which, I should say Iran, which has now spread to other countries within the region, and the world apparently is feeling the impact. Now, somewhere in your head, you're waiting to see what the response, what the official position beyond the noise, all right, of the Nigerian government would be. And in this case, for people who think, well, the government will quickly swing into action and begin to act on measures to evacuate Nigerians who are in those countries, you realize that that's not exactly the case. The authorities are saying that, look, as it stands right now, we have no records of anyone who has reached out to us to say our lives are in danger, we are, there's imminent or existential threat against us, we are unsafe and things like that. And until they receive such formal requests or appeals, there's not much they can do because there's so much of costs associated with the process of evacuating people, especially under such an emergency humanitarian, condition as we have right now. But like I mentioned to Ogochukwu in the course of our segment when we interacted, one would have thought this is that sort of time when the authorities, especially NITCOM now, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, and the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs, would close ranks and say, look, what are the peculiarities of this situation? All right. What we know about the number of Nigerians who are in Iran, for example, or in those other countries that come directly under this fire, so to speak, and things like that. We're not seeing any of that. And in some cases where we have seen situations like this, it was always a private airline that took the initiative to go evacuate Nigerians. For a country that apparently does not have a national carrier, it's quite a shame now, isn't it?
Yes, there are some factors that we need to look into before we run into conclusion. NITCOM have been up and doing. This is not the first time. We've heard of NITCOM in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs going to evacuate Nigerians in diaspora who are being faced with certain conditions, especially people who were lured for certain reasons, people who are having issues, some in the name of going to get a job, they end up somewhere else and all of that. That's one. We've seen them being evacuated in the past. Then for the issue of what's happening in Iran right now, remember Iran is a country that has been faced with some form of war, fights, strikes for a very long time. This is not the first time we are hearing of strikes in Iran. For how long have those people been there? Has the war situation changed? Has it resulted to, okay, now we can't bear it anymore, we need to leave? Have there been calls, all right, to NITCOM or Ministry of Foreign Affairs to that effect? Though I know on their own part, they might have started doing some underground investigations. It's more severe, and the urgency, it's more when there is a cry from the people. That through social media, I've heard NITCOM saying, well, we saw this on social media and we picked it up. These certain ladies were taken to this country for whatever reason. We saw it. Some of them cried on social media and all of that. And the NITCOM and Ministry of Foreign Affairs came to their aid. So with what is happening in Iran right now, we don't know if the people would really want to leave. Nigerians, some Nigerians will tell you that come rain, come sunshine, we prefer, some will even tell you whatever happens, we prefer to stay here. If we go, we perish. If we stay, we perish, like the lepers in the Bible. So some persons have made that decision. And if there is a cry and NITCOM or Ministry of Foreign Affairs is not doing anything, then something is wrong. But you can't run conclusion because there are some countries that will not even wait for their citizens to complain before they do that. Just to hear terrorist attack alone, you can remember what the US did.
Chances.
You don't take chances. Some countries don't take chances. You can remember what US do and what they've done in the past as it has to do with rescuing of their citizens. Someone told me, I don't want to mention his name, a music minister in this country, a high-profile Nigerian music minister, gospel music minister, were having a seminar and they said something. That was the first time this terrorist attack started in Nigeria. He said he got a call. If he wants to move out of Nigeria, he's a Nigerian, but a citizen of that very particular country. He said they called him immediately they heard of that attack, that terrorist attack, if he would want to leave Nigeria. And as a Nigerian, where will he run to? You know, there are some of these things that we are used to. Sure. So what am I trying to say? There are some countries that will not wait for you to reach out, but rather they reach out. But this is peculiar to different countries. You know how these things happen. The way countries are being run, different. They run differently. You know, the way US run their parole is different from that of Nigeria, and all of that. So let's keep our fingers crossed. If there is a cry, or NIDCOM and MFA, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, decide to reach out, fine, but all good, because the life of every Nigerian matters. So the needful should be done.
I totally agree. And, you know, it took, things are looking quite, things are looking up now, as you say. If you ask me, given the improvement we've seen regarding how NIDCOM swings into action under cases, I mean, under circumstances such as this. Because back in the day, people would have to take to Twitter, as it was then called, before you would see the federal government through NIDCOM or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs swing into action. But we're also saying that, yes, people may not, you can't force people to live where they are. Nigerian government cannot forcefully, if you like, remove or evacuate people from wherever country they are resident at this moment. However, we're saying, are you providing them with essential information, vital information that can guide them in terms of what they can do if they needed help, for example, as citizens? Like I mentioned to Ogochukwu a while ago as well, when you have escalation in terrorist attacks in even far northeast of Nigeria, you see the British High Commission in Abuja or in Lagos is already issuing an advisory to the British citizens in the country. They're not saying leave the country. They're not saying we're sending a plane to take you out of Nigeria. They're saying, look, we're providing this information and we are itemizing measures that you can take in your capacity as an individual or as an agency of the British government. All right, we're saying that we must be structured in our thinking. All right, and we must be strategic in our approach, so that people continue to build confidence. Because if you have a pattern of agencies of government, public institutions, including ministries, for example, that have to be nudged or pushed, or that wait to be dragged, as we say, before they swing into action, it makes it quite much more difficult. But let's also mention that Nigeria is not the only country that has its citizens very bothered about this development. There are many other countries that not only have their citizens there in these different countries across the Middle East already, but they also have plans to go there, whether for pilgrimage, for business, for school, for study, for trainings, and what have you. In fact, governments have plans to either go there or somehow do business, interact with people, with government and private entities from that part of the world. But all of that has been halted at this point in time. And we're also hearing that Iran is saying, look, we're not interested in talks at this point in time because you had that window, you bungled it. Were you asking for a second chance? Besides, right in the middle of those talks, you struck. So if you can wait for those talks as an option to be exhausted, and then you have to strike in the middle of it, so what more do you want now than that you have not been given? And there are those who also feel that China and Russia are not doing enough by not throwing their weight behind Iran. And that makes you ask the question of, what more do you expect them to be doing at this point in time, really? Because we understand they don't have any pact or any sort of agreement with this country, with Iran. So it is near impossible for them to jump into the war on the side of Iran. The only thing they can do in the case of Russia in particular is to sell arms and ammunition to Iran, which again is a very concerning element when it comes to wars. But as I say, wars are business. And now we see the meaning of that book titled Why Nations Go to War.
Why Nations Go to War. I think it's a book that everyone have to read.
Right.
But then, in fact, all right, as it is right now, I think this situation, whether there was a negotiation and halfway there was a strike, now there are some elements that we need to look at. What is the way forward?
The way forward?
Yes. Negotiation is on, but where are we in this negotiation? Are we aligning and realigning, or we are falling apart in our discussions?
Right.
Can you now say that at this point, if we keep on with this negotiation, it's going to make way for more actions, negative actions and impacts on the people? Because all of this, US will always tell you whether they have an interest or not. They will always tell you, all we are doing is for the sake of the citizen, is for the sake of the people. The people don't want you anymore. It's better you leave them, hand over, or maybe you don't want to use these resources for them. We will make you use it for them, or we will come use it for them. So many reasons, even though a lot of people have said, well, there are other undertones, all right, to whatever that it is that is happening right now. But looking at this situation right now, Russia, war is, well, people take generally, that is human being for you. That is the nature of man. Man is profit, is built for profit, benefit.
Right.
You're right, benefit. So whatever situation, just like some people will tell you, whatever you think is happening in Nigeria now, some people are happy that it's happening. I remember someone told me, someone said, oh, they want the dollar to be high. They want the dollar to be high because probably the person trade in dollars and the person is making a lot of profit. So these things play out. War is going on. Some people are taking advantage of it, all right, to make profit. And some persons are losing their lives and properties. So this is the irony. And that's the reason why nobody, no sane man would ever want to encourage war. Okay, war situation is supposed to be a no-no. We're still waiting, probably in the short time, because like I said, a lot of uncertainty in the air. You don't know, nobody knows what is going to happen next. Let's just keep our fingers crossed and see where support will come from, and if that support is necessary, and how is it going to come, in what way? All right, is it for peace or instigate more war? You know, these are two different things, very vital in this whole drama. It's either you are suing for peace or suing for more war.
More war. All right, well, they say it's better to judge than to war. I don't know what that means, given the reality the world is grappling with right now. But the point being made is, beyond saying we have to de-escalate, which has become rhetoric, we've got to now pay more attention to the humanitarian angle of this very nasty development that's unfolding right in our faces. Well, taking a break now, our guest joins us shortly for the rest of Global Morning. Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning.
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
Begin our conversation from the home front with regards to the leadership of Nigeria under President Bola Tinubu, especially an assessment of his special purpose vehicle, the Renewed Hope Agenda. We're joined this morning by Kolawole Alakbini, is the General Counsel and Director of Advocacy at the Foundation for Religious Freedom. He's also a human rights lawyer of international repute. I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Kola, for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure.
All right, great. I think it's not out of place to say congratulations on your award as the finalist for the Study UK Alumni Awards. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, great. So let's get it on the road. You and I talked sometime last year about these governments under Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And one of the things we did highlight was that Nigerians are being beaten black and blue in a manner of speaking economically. Would you say at this point, I mean, several months since we had that conversation, that things are looking up now?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. You keep hearing, that the economy has improved, inflation has dropped. Prices of foodstuff are coming down. That's what we hear. But in reality,
right,
is this what we find on the streets? Okay, maybe in the warehouse, the government warehouse, the prices have tumbled down there, and it's going to take a while to trickle down to the ordinary man on the street. But I think it's still a struggle. Amala, that used to cost 50 naira a wrap, went up to 100. And in some places, it's like 500 naira a wrap now. So Semo, the same. I know the people in the presidential villa don't buy things in the market because probably it's the contractor that supplies. And we had huge sums of budget amounts, which has been budgeted for the Aso Rock kitchen and all. And the president's wife doesn't know how much fish has been sold. We saw one of the video clips where she attended a trade fair. And someone had done some roasted catfish and she was trying to market it. And, she looked and, this is really nice and all, and how much is it? The girl told us, fish costs that much? She doesn't know. So our leaders are immune and insulated from the reality of life. I live in an area which used to be band A. Electricity, they say it's band A. So we used to get like 22 hours a day. Of course, it means your meter gets depleted quickly.
Right.
Especially with the weather now, there's so much heat, so you have to power your ACs.
But for much longer.
Exactly. You can't even, you don't have a choice because the walls are very hot.
Right.
With the sun is beating and they're emitting
so much of heat.
So it has to be on constant, at least in the bedroom, if not everywhere else. But now the power is no longer stable. It's been epileptic. But the number one person who should protect all of us and insulate us from power, he jackpot from the national grid and set up his own alternative power supply. So Aso Rock has gone off the grid. They budgeted, was it 10 billion initially, and then following year they budgeted under 7 billion. So our chairman himself has spent 17 billion on his compound.
Alternative source of power.
He's taking himself all the, he doesn't
national
want to, yeah, so he's insulated, and so on and so forth, and people are disillusioned. I mean, you see a convoy of government vehicles and all that, and they, even with Alhaji Dangote now giving us some sort of subsidized petrol, I think the situation would have been much more horrible if the Dangote refinery had not gone into action. Because everything would have been coming from abroad, and there was a cartel, a cabal in NNPC, until Dangote started fighting dirty and confronted one of their chiefs. How can you afford to be sending your kids to school in Switzerland and everything? And the guy had to resign. He was summoned by the president, and he had to resign. The rumor is that they have built a refinery or bought a refinery amongst themselves, abroad in Cyprus or Malta. So they didn't want anything local. Of course, for the life of me, why would anyone not want to support Dangote refinery? Especially when NNPC had invested $20 billion of our money, taxpayers' money. It's all over. Even when the forensic reports came that NNPC had, jackpot with the money, trillions, nobody was punished. The president just looked, I'm going to write it off. That money does not belong to the president.
Right.
That money belongs to the
president. Do you think that was extremely a unilateral decision that the president made at that point?
It was unilateral. It was, I think, I'm not in his mind, but if you try to psychoanalyze what he has done, I think he just thought, oh, you know what, this is a bad debt. It's gone. Let's just start afresh. But would he run his own business like that?
That's a big question.
So these are issues, and it also arises. It points towards governance and how we treat governance issues. And since no one was punished and everything was underwritten by Mr. President, will this occur again? Because there was no deterrent. So give it a few more years, like 15 years, and once it happened before in 2005, 2025, 2026. It was writing. Nothing will happen. So we unwittingly we're feeding, this monster called corruption,
right?
Because nobody gets punished. That's just it. So we're just dancing around. So when going back to your original intro, has life improved for everybody? I don't think so. People are still hanging at bus stops. There's no reprieve with public transport system is not working. Corruption is still rife in government. Everybody's just out for themselves. And look at the situation with the elections coming up. We changed the INEC chief because his tenure had run off. The previous chief lied to us. He sold us a scam, how they were going to do electronic transmission and do this and do that. And we've spent over $500 million. And we got nothing in return for it.
Upwards of $500 billion.
That's what we bought. We bought glitches when it mattered most, when it should deliver.
With taxpayers' money.
Just for a second, is it fair, is it even realistic to pin the entire blame on the leadership of INEC, especially under Professor Mahmood Yakubu, the former chairman?
Of course. And the fish starts running from the head. And the head must always take responsibility. We can't keep passing the buck. If, as a former professor, if he, when he was still active in academia, if anything goes wrong in his department and he was HOD, he should take the
buck stops with him.
Yeah. So if he's the dean, so if you are the vice chancellor, so whenever anything happens in a university, well, those days we went to school under the military years, as you remember. Under the military years, Babangida, Abacha, and everything, and there was constant demonstration. Any VC that had issues with the government, it was removed or suspended, and the school is shut down. But you can't pass the buck as a vice chancellor and say, no, it was my registrar. No, it was
the Senate.
You can't do that.
But how independent do you think INEC is?
That is a question, the million-dollar question, because the president, who is going to be a beneficiary of what INEC does, nominates the chairman. That is a problem. So if we want INEC to really live up to its name, Independent National Electoral Commission, we must truly make INEC independent. And one of the ways we can do that is to strengthen the institutional laws. But the people who are supposed to strengthen that institution are actually afraid that if we make this institution so powerful and independent, we will be the first ones that is going to use the sword to chop his head off. Because otherwise, why don't we've fixated ourselves with electronic transmission of results and then run into this quagmire of, we don't have enough network, even when the network providers say they do, even when INEC says we can, even when what we ought to do is to actually do everything we can within the next 6 months to strengthen that where connectivity is going to be a challenge. But we missed the bigger picture. And this is what the politicians do, it's like when you when you live in the village or your grandmother and you see they have chickens, they're rearing chickens, and grandma wants to call the chickens to come into that local coop, and they just pour the corn, just pour just a little, and they keep leading them. You distract it completely. Even if the chicken is going to its doom, it doesn't realize that there's danger ahead.
Just trailing the maize.
We missed electronic voting. That is the meat of this issue, electronic voting, and the NBA has been doing it for like a decade, and we could understudy the NBA and call them, work with their experts. We were working with Amazon. At least we know that the servers were not in Nigeria, they were
hosted offshore.
And we know that if we truly want to know what happened with the elections last one, I hope I don't stir the honestness, we could have compelled Amazon to disclose some things, but we didn't do so. So that's fine. 4 years into it, if the most secure transactions in Nigeria are financial transactions, and we do so on our phones. Right. You don't even have the time to go into the banks. So there's biometric, finger, eye, everything. So what are we talking about? And it makes the elections less expensive, right? Because people who stay at home, you capture the Gen Zs and the millennials who are afraid of getting their head broken and they don't like violence and all. And these kids are very smart savvy. They're good with this stuff. They just, we vote for Big Brother in the comfort of our home. We do Idol. We do everything. All this, wherever that they send on your phone, click this, type 1, type 2, USSD, even if there's no network, internet network, we can still use USSD. So we missed we're just a bunch of jokers.
Let me take you back a little bit to the economy of the nation. You said, Nigerians are not there yet as per the average Nigerians. But then research has shown that the price of commodities, especially foodstuff, staple food in the market, has reduced to an extent compared to the first time in 2023 when the subsidy was being removed. And there is this school of thought that, for every administration, there are some people that will still complain of poverty, whether or not the poverty is as a result of the economy or something. How can you marry this compared to the previous administration?
Very easily. I will ask you how much you buy Gary in the market.
Maybe he needs to get back to his wife to
because that would be whether your madam has not asked for an increase in allowance, or if you had been paying a certain amount, as she told you, food prices have tumbled. Let me return some part of the allowance you're giving me. There is your answer. And then you also have to look at the state of the economy before this party came in. Okay, the Buhari administration didn't understand the economy, and that's what it should. We shouldn't have shut down our borders, stopping importation of rice. We also violated international law because you know that in the ECOWAS sub-region we have free movement of goods, of people.
And that's a treaty to which we are a signatory.
We are a signatory. You got it. It's a treaty with agreement now.
Agreement,
we signed, and then Buhari struggled to really jettison his military past. It was as if it was on pause from 1984. He came in 31st of December 1983 and was overthrown by his army chief in 1984. And it just feels as if 1985, August 1985, because it came in on the eve of 1984. And it was as if it was on a time log. And as soon as he was able to get out of that time capsule, it was back to 1983. he didn't realize that life had moved on, and we're no longer in 1983.
For more than 3 decades.
For 32 years. So you could see some of his pronouncements, some of his behavior was very militaristic and very, reminiscent of his behavior in 1983. And that was why what Emefiele capitalized by trying to change the currency, because the Buhari administration did that in 1984 as well, to avoid all the money that politicians are stored in the homes. And 1 minute unilaterally just shut the borders down, and it really hurt our relationship with our West African neighbors. Goods coming in from outside, they were just stunned that they couldn't come to Nigeria. Former president of Ghana, Akufo-Addo was telling him, there's a treaty. This way, Nigeria, we are the biggest players in the ECOWAS sub-region. And we just, it's because we want to stop proliferation of arms. This is small movement of small and light arms disturbing Nigeria. He didn't abate, so that was the wrong reason for shutting down the border, because we've seen insecurity spiral and skyrocket. So shutting the borders didn't make any sense. How much was a sack of rice when Goodluck Jonathan administration was leaving? It was 7,500. So, and the minimum wage was about that. It was more than that. When I was serving, the minimum wage was increased like 3 times just before we served, because that was the Abacha year. And Abacha died, unfortunately. Absalam came in, and then Labour kept on, pushing the rest and everything. So it went from like 1.5 to this, and then they picked it at 7.5. That was 99, 98, 99, etc. And that minimum wage stayed like that for a while. Then it went to 19,000, and then it went up. What I'm trying to say is that when we were serving, and the NYSC allowance was 7,500 naira, you could buy multiple bags of sack of rice with your minimum wage. What are you even doing with a sack of rice as a copper?
It's a copper, right?
You don't need it. Now, we increase minimum wage to 77,000. And a sack of rice is costing 100,000. So do you see the metrics there? So the minimum wage cannot even buy a sack of rice. And rice and gari are what Nigerians consume the most, and yam.
Okay, I want us to move a little and talk about issues that are more institutional in nature. The Electoral Act, for example. It has been passed. It's almost as if it's cast in concrete, unless, of course, we have to cycle back to the Congress, or I should say the National Assembly and all of that. But there are still concerns being expressed by stakeholders, saying that, look, like you said, the meat of it, to use your word, was electronic voting, beyond the issue of whether you transmit electronically or otherwise. But 2 questions in one. First, we say, well, INEC will be far more independent if the president is stripped of his powers to appoint the chair of the commission. And we're asking, how do we do that? Do we make it open for those who think they are eminently qualified or eligible to apply for it, or do we put in place an institutional framework that automatically creates guardrails of some kind to determine who ultimately becomes the chairman of the commission? That's number one. Number 2 is to say that as it stands today, we say, well, we borrowed, quote and unquote, this democracy or presidential system of government from the United States. What are the systemic challenges that, if you like, inherently make it almost impossible for us to follow through on that American path, as it were?
Okay, we as a country will have to decide how we want our electoral chief to be appointed.
Right.
So is it by appointment? Is it by nomination? Who appoints? Is it the National Assembly, etc.? If it's the president that nominates, do we look further? Do we subject them to critical debate? You saw when the president nominated the new ambassadors, ambassador designates. It's a shambles. And no one was allowed to ask questions. They were asked to take a vote. And more worrisome is that the former electoral chief was part of those nominated. The optics looks bad. It looks like he was being rewarded for ushering in the president amidst the technical glitches that we experienced.
In 2023?
Yes. We're not so far from 2023 now. It was nominated last year. So it was like a job well done. I'm going to appoint you as an ambassador. And then when I cloak you with the clothes of an ambassador, you cannot be prosecuted. You are diplomatic immunity. So they don't look too good. And this is what we're saying, because now a beneficiary of a deeply flawed election, so to speak, is rewarding the umpire of that election. So those are the things that we're talking about. When you're talking about the United States, where we got this system from, the United States itself is not without its own challenges.
Right.
It's not El Dorado over there, but at least people can ask questions. And there is accountability. When the incumbent president had a fallout regarding elections, last time when he contested and he lost, he couldn't have his way because the institutions were strong. Even his vice president challenged him and said, hey, we can't continue. Even when there was an insurrection and everything, the institutions stood firm and they wouldn't yield. So we can learn from those institutional strengths in the United States.
Right.
But even with the strength of those institutions, you can see that it was tested. It was tested when the most powerful man in the world didn't agree with the election results.
Right.
We've seen it happen as well. I take you to Al versus Gore. Al Gore versus Bush.
Bush, yes.
In 2000, when an incumbent vice president was defeated and he had to go all the way to the Supreme Court, and he lost the popular vote. Sorry, he won the popular votes.
The Electoral College.
And at that point in time, a lot of people didn't really understand the U.S. voting system. So, he won. No, you can win the popular vote.
And CNN forecast has already shown that Gore was going to pop as the president.
The same thing with Hillary Clinton. So they have a very interesting system, which also checkmates the whole process. So it's not all about popularity, and then probably the writers of the U.S. Constitution, you've got to give it to them, the wisdom and the egalitarian thoughts which they had hundreds of years ago and which they've built on, but with just a few amendments, to beef up that documentation. Probably that's seen into the future and envisage a day like this, so they put a check and balance on it. Yes, you're popular. Okay, but you cannot just ride into the U.S. presidency on the wave of popularity. You must be able to get support from the various states. And you remember when they formed America, that's why it's called United States. Everybody, settled on their own and everything. It was not a united country. They had to come together to fight the British and fight off colonialism. And then the compromise was, okay, fine. You want us to come together. A state as small as Maine or Rhode Island. How do I compete against the states like Texas that's like a whole country, or Alaska that is bigger than Nigeria, and etc. Or California. Look at the economy of California is like sixth or seventh biggest economy in the world.
Yeah, bigger than the entire Africa.
And they said, no, this is the situation. All states will have representation based on their strengths and everything. No state is bigger than the other. It will be by electoral college. So you will have an equal say. And that was one of the reasons why all of them agreed to come together as a union. We don't have that here.
Quite interesting. I think Ramsey wants to jump in.
Yes, we're still looking at this current administration. There is one thing that if you're talking about Nigeria, especially our political office holders, one of the things that comes to the mind of the average Nigerians is corruption. There is this belief that if you're in politics, you're corrupt. Not about the party now. Not if you're in this party, you're not corrupt. If you're in that party, you're corrupt. That's not it now. But recently, there have been tongue wagging concerning some of the arrests done by anti-graft agencies. Take, for instance, the arrest of Malami, and the prosecution, everything. Then that of El-Rufai is still on. As at yesterday, stories were still flying. So many things are happening. This morning, we heard that the arrest that was not made in the airport was as a result of one or two things that exchanged and corruption, by the officers who are also being brought to book as we speak. Now, what can you say concerning this arrest? Is it witch hunting? Is it because they are not in the ruling party, as some persons have alleged. What's your own perspective to all of this arrest?
In El-Rufai's case, I watched the interview, and to my mind, when I was listening to it, I was like, oh, it's treading on dangerous waters here. That was what I had in mind. From a purely legal angle, I'm not talking about the political affiliation. However, I think they have to do their own work, right? Because criminal prosecutions have a higher threshold of proving. The burden of proof is high.
Right.
And evil asserts must prove. So you must prove beyond reasonable doubt. Okay. So what is mind-boggling is, if it is true, how the whole National Security Advisor did not know that his phone was being bugged. Are we safe? If the National Security Advisor himself was breached, and I learned that a vehicle got lost in his convoy and is not being found till today.
Yeah, at the Moscow.
So if you can steal from National Security Advisor, what's going on? I mean, those are the issues. So I just thought that, hey, they're going to ruffle his feathers, if not for anything, for the nuisance value, that you can't just say such things. But they have to prove that this is not beer parlor conviction. And, people sit in the beer parlor and they're discussing what is going on, words on the street and everything, and everybody has their opinion.
Right.
No, this is a very serious issue, and you must tighten your case. You can't just be acting on hearsay evidence. Hearsay evidence is not admissible, and as far as I'm concerned, so far to my mind, it looks like hearsay evidence up till now. We don't know what else they have uncovered.
The ICPC, just to add to that, says they found wiretapping equipment in his house in the presence of his wife and his son.
Yeah, but was the premises searched in presence of the accused person?
And that's a factor now, right?
He's talking from the legal perspective.
Right.
Okay. Yes, you have various methods. For instance, you need an arrest warrant or a search warrant to search somebody's house. But it's not an absolute law. If someone, say for instance, God forbid, someone is reasonably suspected of wanting to come into this studio and hijack the proceedings here, like the days of the military, right, and he just sits down and wants to make a broadcast to the nation. That's a very serious issue. And your security men suspect that he is armed. Are you going to go and apply for an arrest warrant or a search warrant?
You don't even have that luxury of time.
So that's what they call the ticking bomb issue when it comes to criminal law or international criminal law. Or someone straps a bomb on his back in a backpack or under a religious garb, and you suspect that this person has strapped a bomb, and you want to go and start applying for search warrant and arrest warrant. The security forces are empowered to act on reasonable
and arrest the situation.
Yes. So it's not tied down in. It's not written in cast in stone, as they say.
Right.
That okay, it ought to be there. But I'm just saying these are some of the issues that can spring up that a smart council should rely upon. So El-Rufai's case. They need to do more work, if truly. But I suspect that they just want to keep him busy, keep him out of circulation, from ruffling feathers towards the election.
2027.
I may be wrong, but that's my suspicion. In Malami's case, as a former Attorney General, I think he ought to know that he needs to live above board. And he would have anticipated a day like today. So let's see how it pans out. He is saying that he can account for everything, so he will have his day in court. I know that the underlying reason why you asked this is because we've seen it happen with previous administrations as well, where it appears that people who are not in favor of the government end up going to court, and maybe like for the 4 years that the administration is going to be there, to be in and out of court and then out. And sadly, that is the kind of politics that we practice here. I remember our very good friend Tushowere, when he was charged with treasonable felony by a man himself who was a felon. The person who is Showere called for revolution of thoughts, revolution of ideas, revolution in the way we do things, and we should hold our leaders to more account, which you will expect that in any reasonable democracy, people are expected to stir up ideas. And the person who starts with chanting him was a man who overthrew the government himself, which is treasonable felony. So where do you, and these were some of the questions that came up during cross-examination in court. I was part of that legal team, by the way. And, you know, Leonard Femfalan was posing the question to the SSS official, are you aware that your principal overthrew a democratically military government in 1983 that brought him into? He said he was not aware. Well, of course, that's what they always say. I'm not aware. I'm not okay. How old were you in 1983? And even if you were not born in 1983, has the institution not taught you anything? So the lesson there is that we just use the law to witch hunt people when we like. Eventually, the Attorney General filed a null prosecute that they were not willing to go ahead with, because they know that they are going to face uncomfortable questions in court. So, waste of time, counsels going to court, waste of resources, waste of court's time, waste of, waste of everybody's time.
Right.
And the whole idea was just to keep Showere busy and, out of circulation. Unfortunately for them, they remanded him. They should have left Showere in Lagos, far away from the federal capital. Now, they remanded him in Abuja, and then right under their nose. They thought, let's keep him right under our nose. And he's become a thorn right under them. And Showere has refused to leave Abuja anymore. Now he's now squarely in their face or faces. So,
just before we move to the international scene, I thought we should look at opposition as it stands today in Nigeria. It's quite disturbing when you see how even the opposition itself is depleted. You have the PDP saying that we're not ready to, if you like, merge with any political party. We're fine where we are. As a matter of fact, we are putting our best foot forward. We know the outcome of the election in 2027, particularly the presidential election, will be in our favor. On the other hand, you have the coalition, which has now metamorphosed into what is better known as the ADC, the African Democratic Congress. There were elections here in Abuja the other day, area council elections. To put it very, if you like, respectfully, they didn't do very well in those elections, which people had said would be sort of a litmus test for the ADC. When you look at where we are today and then you project a little further into 2027, do you see opposition even biting beyond barking?
Unfortunately, it's not looking good for the opposition, whether we like it or not. How can we learn from this? Let's go back to the previous election where the opposition became splintered parties. The president won very marginally. The votes that brought in the president was not much. And he lost in the federal capital. He lost in Lagos State,
right,
where he used to be governor. So it's not infallible. It's not as if you can't really hit him hard. Okay? He just won based on calculations. He captured the north, and in, at least a few places where Atiku normally should have excelled. Being another, although he was violating the principle of, the presidency is coming to the south,
right,
unspoken, unwritten principle. Everybody understands. It's a pendulum, it swings. Right. And it was even enshrined in the constitution of the PDP. That was the first problem. They went against their own party agreement. Number two, he thought he would not be able to control Nyesom Wike as governor of River State, who had, pumped in money and got all sorts of stuff ready, vehicles, logistics ready for the elections. And he chose a supposedly calmer candidate some would say weaker, calmer candidates in the governor of Delta State.
Right.
Who has now fled to the APC to avoid prosecution, buttressing what you were saying earlier, and now nobody's prosecuting him anymore, nobody's saying anything. Okay. So the whole idea was, as soon as that arraignment fell through, PDP became deeply flawed. They were deeply wounded. There was no way, because they needed all the votes. And this person who became disgruntled said, I am going to ensure that you lose this election. And he did. He did. And so what ought to have been their traditional, space, their strength, they were splintered already. They couldn't come. And then, so you now have Peter Obi now has to move out of PDP, went to Labour, where a lot of other unknowns or a few known politicians all rode on that wave of Peter Obi to get into the National Assembly and they are now subsequently virtually decamped. So that was a major flaw. The implosion of the opposition party itself, and then if all of them had come together and giving peace a chance, whoever candidates they fielded will have won.
Right.
But is it late to have done that? If they want to do it now, is it late at this point?
That is the issue with ego. That is the Showore is not going to step down for anyone, even if his votes are less than 100,000. So
that was some subtle sarcasm.
No, it's the reality.
It has been.
He's my very good friend. Okay. And as I said, I was on the legal team.
Right.
But I'm a realist. I know they rig elections and everything, yes, but I don't think at any point in time it has grossed up to 100,000 votes. Okay. So those votes they're kind of wasted because it didn't bring him into the presidency. So we could have aligned with a stronger party. But for whatever reasons, the alignment was not done, and that's fine. Everybody should have different political ideology.
Right.
You also have the issue with Peter Obi and Atiku, who essentially, used to be principal and, vice principal, so to speak. And those votes were just wasted as well because of what use is it? And that was why the president said it's a pleasure to see them in disarray. They need, if the opposition does not feel, and that's what they need to learn a lesson from, a masterclass lesson from the incumbents, because that was what it was trying to do for like 20 years, from AD to ACN. He fielded, and it was very strategic about it. He fielded various people, did not bring himself forward. He was not too pushy. He waited, he queued, he built alliances. I mean, you might not like his personality, or you might say a lot of things about him are shrouded in controversy and all, but you've got to give it to him the way he aligned himself politically. As a matter of fact, he had aligned himself with Yar'Adua Sr. since 1992 or thereabouts. Remember, he was a senator then. That was where he got his title senator from 1992. That election, that would have brought in Chief MK Abiola, that was toppled.
Produced him as a senator?
Yes, he was already a senator. And you see this famous picture of Chief MK Abiola and Sonny Abacha and him in Aso Rock, 1993.
Right.
1993 till now. That's 33 years ago, where he had been walking in those powers, and he said, it's been my lifelong ambition to be president. So, and that is why a lot of people are saying, for someone who has studiously prepared himself for that long, we shouldn't be in this crisis, But as I said, it took his time. He fielded other candidates, fielded Ribadu. He had at some point worked with Atiku before, and then he told Buhari, you're not going to win with this formula. It's a mathematical equation. You have to solve it. You don't have an handshake across the Niger. You're a regional leader, you're a cult leader in the north. Whether you say anything or not, they're going to vote for you. You keep returning 12 million, 8 million, but you're not winning anything. There has to be a geographical spread, and you've got to be. So he was able to fuse it together, And Buhari had his 8 years, and I said, Ebilokon, in his famous declaration in Abeokuta, said, I have put all of you out, including the one who became vice president. In fact, he threw a jab at the governor of this one behind.
Who was sitting right behind him.
Yes. He said, do you think you could have become governor? If not, I seized the flag at that, whatever that day, and handed it over to you. They were trying to rig you out. You know? So he had that moral voice to be able to speak. So I fielded all of you. Let me do mine now. Age is not on my side. You know. So those are if they are able to learn from him and come together and form a formidable opposition, yeah, maybe they stand a chance of challenging him. A week is a long time in politics. So a year is even a longer time. We don't know what will happen between now and 2027. Yes, I mean, it's God that owns life.
But
if we're all alive till then,
by God's grace,
if we're all alive, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. You know, you don't know who's going to be alive or not. We once had a famous case here in our country where a governor was on the way of winning, and they were announcing the results, and he died just a few hours before it was concluded. So, you know, there's also the supernatural, the Almighty also has a hand in all these issues as well. But taking out that factor of the unknown and the factor which we cannot control, with everybody decamping now and the governors are expected to work in their various states, the only person who can stop himself is the incumbent.
The incumbent.
I think so.
But a lot of people are saying so many things. There is this belief that it has never gotten better as far as governance in Nigeria is concerned. That's what some people think. Say, we thought this year, this administration was going to be better. You hear things like that all the time. They will tell you, we thought this administration was going to be better. Now, what are you foreseeing in 2027? Like everyone have agreed that you just said something now that Nigerians were thinking since he's been part of the system all this while, things would have been better than it is right now, talking about the current president. What are we expecting, peradventure, he's been re-elected as the president of this country in 2027? Is it going to get better? Because some people are speculating, and even APC members, their stakeholders will tell you, well, you need to endure now to enjoy later. So is 2027 going to be the later time? Are we going to have it better than it is in this very dispensation?
Well, I hope so, for our own benefit. And for the benefit of our country. I hope things get better. But also, you can't particularly lay all the... I know I always say that, you know, the box stops on the president's table, the fish starts running from head. But there are some places as well, some areas which the president has allowed the governors to use their initiative. Power, for instance. You know, remember when President Bola Tinubu used to be governor in Lagos and he was trying to bring in Enron, and the federal government frustrated those efforts.
Under Obasanjo?
Yes. If they had allowed Lagos State, who had the finance and the intellectual capability to assemble a star cabinet, to think of that, maybe Lagos State would have been off the national grid. And we have the copycat syndrome in Nigeria. Every state will want to duplicate and catch up. We missed the opportunity. We didn't build a whole new national grid. PDP said they spent $16 billion in buying darkness, because we're still in darkness. We could have built a new grid, maybe 2 times more with $16 billion. We didn't do so. Now, you know what the president has done? Because then President Obasanjo was saying power belongs to the federal government. It's on the exclusive list. But President Tinubu has removed power from the exclusive list now. So, what is stopping the state governors from providing energy or power or going to partnerships with, you know, various other entities? Make sure that the federal government is involved in some sort of advisory capacity. Of course, you know.
Also, that the fact is even fatter.
Yeah, the federal attorney general, you know, all this, because that's another problem again, is that a lot of the state governments try to do things and they don't pass through the federal attorney general to go through the agreements and these, and make sure that these things are not going to hurt us as a country. But if all those things have been put in place, why, you keep saying you're looking for investors. I haven't heard of one. We could, start looking towards China, to help. Those governors can look to us and say, hey, I have the power now to establish my own power, independent of federal government. Come and help us build a whole new grid in our state and work out things. They could do that. You could turn to the Middle East. Now we know there are issues there, but, figuratively speaking, if, those issues were not there, because we have a high amount of sunshine in Nigeria, especially northern Nigeria, and we could start looking into alternative power, solar, for instance. How are the Middle East able to harness this solar energy and all? There's so many ways which you can, but none of the governors are thinking of that. Everybody's just thinking of re-election and how they're going to come back, and etc. Security, for instance, when you say, I think it's going to get better. The people of Southern Kaduna, the people of Plateau, the people of Benue, some parts of Taraba, they feel neglected by the government, especially with the insecurity going on there. And you have, constant information. We don't lack early warning systems or early warning signals. What we have is neglected warning signals, because intelligence report always tells us. We knew after the train to Kaduna was attacked that there were intelligence reports that this train was going to be attacked, yet we did nothing. And the trains were attacked like 2 times, but because they were armored, these attackers could not get to the train until they figured it out in their head that, I guess when they were kids, they didn't play with Lego. Because if your parents were affluent enough and you had Lego as a kid and you had those trains, all you have to do is remove one of the track and the whole thing comes tumbling down. Yeah. It's not rocket science, as they say. But eventually they figured it out. They took the long way, the scenic route, and they figured it out, and then eventually the train was derailed. Look at our response time as well. Look at the school in Kebbi State, where everybody, including the governor, said they got intelligence reports. The governor alerted the authorities, because the governor is just a sitting duck himself. We give him this fancy title, Chief Security Officer, but he doesn't control troops. It is only the president that can control the troops. He gives directives to the Chief of Army staff, and it trickles down. The same thing with police. It instructs the IG, and it trickles down to the Commissioner of Police, etc. So you cannot hold the governor accountable. I guess you can say, we'll give you X amount of money for security votes. What did you do with it? But of what use is the security vote? Say you give me 65 million naira every month as security vote, or you give me 1 billion, and I decide, okay, I'm going to support the police, I'm going to support the army, I'm going to support the civil defense, etc. And I share this money around. Keep a little for myself, of course. Share everything around. Yes, I've given you the money, but this is a command structure. This is a command position. If there's an attack going on in my state, and I say, hey, come on, Commissioner of Police, I gave you 300 million, he's not going to listen to you. Oga, yes, I know that you give me money, but call my Oga for Abuja, call IG. So it doesn't make any sense. So,
I want us to move things a little, because time is quite limited now. Let's move things to the foreign scene now. So much has been happening in the Middle East already. Let's not go into the rigorous details of how we got here. But it appears that Israel and the US are not on the same page in terms of their motivation for these strikes. For example, there are those who say Israel is genuinely interested in ensuring that Iran, on account of its nuclear ambition, does not continue to pose imminent threat to it and other neighbors in the region. Others say no, the US has had its sights on Iranian oil right from day one, right? So what's really going on?
Both of them. Both
side by side?
Yeah, they can coexist without hurting each other. We saw it happen in Venezuela, and Maduro and his wife have been captured.
But they say that was a straightforward thing, it was all about oil and nothing else in the case of Maduro.
The Venezuela had been in the crosshair of the United States government for a while. Hugo Chavez,
right?
If you remember, before he passed away, he had this running battle, and then this the president that's been captured and his wife continued in that trajectory. So it was only a matter of time. You saw it happen in Tripoli, in Libya, with Muammar Gaddafi. He was hit first in 1986, Benghazi and Tripoli.
Right.
And then eventually he decided we didn't finish the job, we need to finish it. And then he was removed. And some say Libya has never had peace since then. You saw it happening in Iraq. First Gulf War was not finished. So the chance happened, came up again to do it, and so we have to finish the job this time around. We didn't do it properly the first time, and Saddam Hussein was removed. So these are the geopolitics of the international world. And when you're talking about Israel and the United States and what they're doing in the Middle East, you have to realize that there are 5 great powers of the world. The United States used to be the USSR, Soviet Union, now Russia. You've got France, you've got Great Britain, and you've got China. And anytime any of them, they are the 5 permanent members
of the Security Council. Right.
Those are the people who rule the world. The whole United Nations can say whatever they want to say. Whatever the 5 powers want to do, they do it. You can say Russia got away with it in Ukraine. And Israel operates under the banner of the United States. President Donald Trump was saying last night that he was even the one that forced Israel's hand. The United States and Israel will always be on the same page. And the United States will always protect Israel at the Security Council. So that's, even though Israel was the first that was attacked at the music festival, when Israel responded, they responded robustly, and some can even say heavy-handedly. Who's going to check Israel?
Right.
Nobody. So those are the issues of geopolitics.
Do you see a regime change ultimately with all of this going on?
Regime change where?
I mean, the US maybe having the goal of...
The regime has already been changed.
As it stands right now.
Yeah, the leader of Iran, Khamenei, was assassinated. So the regime has changed.
Even though we have an interim leader there now, still from the camp of the late Ayatollah.
Whoever emerges as the ruler of Iran exists at the mercy of the United States. Right now, as it stands. If they don't like you, you can't.
You can't be there.
And that's what happened in Venezuela. You remember the woman who won the Nobel Prize?
Right.
She even went to appease Donald Trump with that Nobel Peace Prize. He didn't change anything.
All of that fell through the cracks.
He didn't change anything. I mean, the authorities had already decided, she doesn't have the local support or whatever, we'll stick with this person that's there. And that's it. You never know. Whoever exists in the place where the United States has exerted such a pressure will exist at the mercy or at the pleasure of the United States government. The first thing, the overall thing that will never change is that U.S. interest always comes paramount. And if it is not in their interest, whoever the leader emerges is going to go. If it is in the interest of the United States for that person to be there, he will be there. So that is United States foreign policy, is U.S. interest first.
Interesting. I don't know, maybe Ramsey wants to ask just one more question before we wrap up on this Iran issue.
Yes, this issue, this is not the first time we're hearing of this fight. This has been a long time. You remember what happened during Russia and Ukraine war. So many parts of the world were affected, including Nigeria here. You remember there was a time they said grain and all of that. Now, this thing is happening in Iran. What do you think? Okay, footballers are leaving, people are leaving. Will you think about the economic implication for these countries involved? What global implication do you think this will have?
The price of oil will go up. If this crisis continues for the next 4 weeks, it will skyrocket again. Nigeria will make a windfall from it. So we'll receive from the right and we'll lose it with the left. Because, because the price of petrol will also go up in Nigeria, whether we like it or not, because there has to be a buffer, even though the crude oil is local, and we've said we're going to be supplying, the president has said we should supply Dangote with crude in Naira. Right. But a lot of the expenses are still going to be done in US dollars. Price tickets might go up for flights because aviation fuel, etc. So it has a lot of implication. Tourism is going to dip. Nobody's going to go to Dubai again for a while. People will love themselves, because Iran is hitting civilian targets.
Right.
They're not, it's like, I'm not going to go down alone.
Is that the last kick of a dying horse?
It's a violation of international law.
Okay.
And international humanitarian law, also known as the law of armed conflict.
Right.
You cannot target schools, you cannot
hospitals,
target churches, hospitals, etc. It's a violation. These are international war crimes. So it goes just beyond what Iran is. Someone is going to be accountable for it. And then when you say that a new leader has come up in Iran, he's going to face prosecution if America so decides.
Or if America so decides.
Yeah, or if the International Criminal Court decides to issue an arrest warrant, he's going to have the answers to, have to answer to it. You cannot be shooting into residential buildings and bombing mosques or churches, hospitals. It's not allowed, and that's very low, And then you just keep firing rockets like a deranged person. You now give the people who are attacking you the excuse, as they say. These people are irrational. We said so. They don't think straight and see what they're doing. So you give them more ammunition to keep on clamping down on you.
Quite interesting. Incidentally, I think that's the much we'll be able to talk about these issues back at home, as well as the developments coming out of Iran and indeed the entire Middle East right now. We'll always keep an eye out to follow and track developments for you regarding these issues. We'd like to say a big thank you to our guests this morning, Barrister Kola Alakwini, I should say, who has come to.
Simply Mr., no barrister.
Well, it's all right. Let's set the record straight. But we appreciate the insights that you have shared with us on the program this morning. Quite valuable. That's what we're leaving is, everyone. Remember that the views of our guests are their opinions. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo.